joy. Daniel Webster, Merriam-Webster, defines it this way: the emotion evoked by well-being, success, or good fortune, or by the prospect of possessing what one desires, semicolon, delight. Synonyms listed under the definition: beatitude, blessedness, bliss, blissfulness. I decided not to stop just with that definition. I decided to go to a man who I'm very familiar with from my study of philosophy, and that is C.S. Lewis of the Chronicles of Narnia fame. In his book, The Letters to Malcolm, he says, "Joy is the serious business of heaven." What a wonderful statement. And in a book entitled Surprised by Joy, his wife's name, by the way, was Joy, he says, "Joy must be sharply distinguished both from happiness and pleasure. Joy has indeed one characteristic, and one only in common with them, happiness and pleasure: the fact that anyone who has experienced it will want it again. I doubt whether anyone who has tasted it would ever, if both were in their power, exchange it for all the happiness or pleasures in the world. But joy is never in our power, and pleasure often is." They say that joy is elusive. Many people seek after joy. But I personally believe that we cannot find joy. I believe that joy finds us. Case in point. A number of students gave up their spring break last year and traveled to a poor area in the mountains of Jamaica for a mission trip. They were showering with buckets of water outside on the stoop. They were sleeping with gnats and mosquitoes every day. But I saw their faces every night when we came together to reflect on our work of the day. And I heard them ever since they returned to campus telling others it wasn't happiness, it was joy. They were found by joy from that experience. Joy found them. We look at the characters we are presented with in the scriptures tonight. Isaiah the prophet says, "I rejoice heartily in the Lord." And studying that prophet Isaiah, I'm scratching my head. This man is a slave in Babylon. He's a slave to the Babylonian king, living away from his homeland. And he says, with great passion, "I rejoice heartily in the Lord." He knows that his circumstances and surroundings and his troubles and pains did not bring him joy. Joy found him here, inside. The response we sang is the Blessed Mother Mary's canticle. "My soul proclaims the greatness of the Lord. My spirit rejoices in God my Savior." What the heck did she have to rejoice over? A young, pregnant woman, embarrassing her family, probably afraid to look Joseph in the eye, yet so joyful because of the gift she was given. The angel asked her to be the mother of God. Joy found her. Paul, the apostle, talking to the people of Thessalonica, tells them to rejoice always. And in Philippians, he says, "I say it again, rejoice." This man, a missionary in a foreign country all the time, often imprisoned, often shipwrecked, often miserable. His life wasn't great. Joy found him in all the circumstances of his life, and he could speak to us in his letters the way he did. John the Baptist almost speaks a little negatively in the gospel, and you might say, well, where's the joy in John the Baptist? But I personally think that he found joy in knowing his identity. He knew who he was. He knew his mission, and he came to testify to the light of Christ. They were willing to say, you're Elijah, you're the prophet, you're the Messiah. He had weird hair, he had camel hair on his body, he ate grasshoppers and wild honey. He could have easily been the Messiah and said, I was. He knew exactly who he was. I'm not the Messiah. I've come to give testimony to the light. Which reminds me of a great story. Growing up in Bridgeport as a kid, my sister would probably refer to me as a scutch. Does anybody know what a scutch is? Leanna knows. A scutch is a pest. Somebody who's always bothering you. My nephews, or my cousins all who were around me, I had one who was only a few months younger than me, and we always got in trouble. We found some broken mirror someplace, and my sister was on the back porch with one of her friends talking, and I got the mirror, and I'm taking it, and I'm shining it in her face, and I'm playing games, doing figure eights around her face, and she's, stop that, get rid of that thing, making her crazy. But as I recalled that little scutchy thing I did with her, I said, what a wonderful symbol for us tonight. For that reflection to happen, we have to be directly in the path of the light, right? And we can't allow anything to come in between the light source and us. In the mirror. John the Baptist knew the same thing. For him to be able to testify and give witness to the light, which brought him great joy, he had to face the light of Christ all the time. He had to be present to Christ after he baptized him in the Jordan River. And he couldn't allow anything to come in the way between him and the light of Christ. What a lesson for us. If we really want to rejoice always and never cease rejoicing, and find the peace and the sense of gratitude for our lives that comes with that joy, we have to keep Christ in the forefront of our lives. We have to keep him in the forefront of our activities. We have to always realize that whether we are present to Christ or not, Christ is always present to us. And we can't let the distractions, the testing, the final projects, the long travel we have in front of us, whatever it is, the presents we haven't wrapped yet, the cookies we haven't baked, we can't let the Christmas consumerism and capitalism get in the way of the joy that can be ours if we focus on Christ, who's coming in time. We celebrate in a few days, and who's coming in our lives every day